The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests of this show do not represent their employing agency, department, or organization. All information should be regarded as anecdotal, contextual, and educational, and should not be misinterpreted as legal or medical advice. When you don't know how a recruit's really doing until week 10, that's a problem. TrackWired's field training management software replaces old school paperwork with a clean, automated system. Streamlined reporting, knowledge comprehension, and crystal clear performance trends, all handled in one secure place. TrackWire gives you real-time insight into their field training process, so supervisors get real-time visibility. FTOs save hours, and recruits stay on track. If you want to tighten up your FTO program, start by going to trackwire.com. That's tracwire.com. From interviews to jail calls, Ditto Transcripts delivers fast, confidential, and court-ready transcription for law enforcement agencies. Ditto is CJIS compliant and is already working with agencies all over the U.S., including the Washington State Patrol and the National Park Service Investigations Unit. Get started now at dittotranscripts.com. That's dittotranscripts.com.
I am such a freaking coward. Like, I should be out there helping people because there's people dying, right? Like, that was my mentality. And all I saw was cops running up, people with rifles, people with plate carriers. And I'm thinking, that's what I should be doing, man. Like, these guys are going out there and they know that they might not make it home that night, but they're doing something to help people. Sometimes you may have one direction you want to go, and then life comes at you real quick and smacks you in the mouth and says, yeah, right, buddy, you thought, let's go this direction.
Welcome to Blue Grit Radio, the podcast that explores making better cops for a better community. I'm your host, Eric Tung. I've been an active police officer since 2007. We will dive into the aspects of police culture, health and wellness, leadership, and mindset. You'll hear from experts not only from policing, but all industries as they relate to being our best with purpose, passion, and positivity. Join me as we share stories, lessons, and advice so we can all be better for ourselves, our teams, our families, and our communities. All right, welcome everyone. Welcome. We got three cops talking. I'm debatably a cop because I drive a desk, as you all know if you've been listening in. But welcome, Matthew and Austin from Tone Alert Podcast. Thanks for being on, fellas.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, absolutely. If we get a little, if I get a little loopy, it's because we just recorded on their show, and so check that out. But so much more than just talking about like this recording, that recording. But we're just talking about police culture. And before recording, we always get these good nuggets, but we're discussing like length of career. And I know that there's everyone in between that listens to this, from retirees to recruits. And so you guys were talking about retiring at 50 or the 30-year career. Is that right where you are?
Yeah, me. I mean, because with our contract, it's the 30-year contract, and I'm going to be well past 50 years old. I'm going to be pushing 60 years old if I did the full 30. And I don't, to me, regardless of what role I am in my department, whether I'm street cop, a detective, admin, whatever it is, like I think at 50 years old, I think I want to be done. I want to experience other things. I want to have, retire with my wife to, I don't know, explore. And I always make this joke, which is not a joke. Everybody thinks I'm joking. When I retire, I want to disappear into the mountains in like a nice cabin with my wife, and once my kids are all grown up, and just live my life in peace. And I want to do that, I think, longer than my career was. But
yeah, and I kind of get into the mentality of like, if you go to 30 years, when you're at the tail end of your career, you should not still be on the streets. Like, there's always people that are like, how do you be a cop for 30 years? It's like, well, you plan it strategically, right? Do your first 10 years on the streets, have a good time chasing bad guys, just being a street goon and having a good time. Then your second, 10 years, you look at like promotions or what bureau you want to go to or what investigation specialty you want to go to, By the time you hit that point, if you're not a sergeant or at least a lieutenant by that point, you should start looking at, all right, how do I want my last 10 years to go? And it's my mentality that when you're in the 50-ish plus, age range, you should be doing something that's more administrative. You should be, lieutenant, captain, or higher. You should be in training. You should be, teaching, how to drive cars or be a firearms instructor or, at that age. And that's just my opinion. I'm going to ruffle some feathers with that. I don't care. But, I know plenty of guys who are pushing 50 plus who are still, pushing squad cars out there, and they're doing a kick-ass job, and I appreciate the shit out of them. I know I can't do that at that time because, if I'm hitting 50, 55 years old, I want to retire, and I want to, like Austin said, be retired for just as long, if not longer, that I was a cop for. So we kind of go back and forth with that, because I look at it as, you know, if you're going to be retired at that age, why not still just be doing something? Because like, I know I've been injured on duty and I was off the clock for 6 months. I was bored out of my freaking mind, man. And it made me think, what am I going to do when I retire? This is going to be hell.
Fishing every day.
Yeah, well, where we work, we don't really have
answer. He's got an answer to that.
He's always got rebuttals for everything I say. I'm always wrong in his eyes, but no, that's just my insight with it. I mean, this job is taxing. This job will wear you down. By the time you've done 20 or 30 years in law enforcement, you're going to be bruised, scarred, beaten. Maybe you've been shot. Maybe you've been stabbed. Maybe you've had a tremendous amount of post-traumatic stress from just seeing the things that we see every single day. And if you're not strategically tapering off the end of your career in some form of like, you know, coasting off into the sunset, like, I think you're doing it wrong. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I like meeting in the middle. I'm the moderator, but between you two, before you guys get into domestic or something. But Austin, like I was saying before the recording, you know, you're like, dude, I'm 20 years, I'm good, and you have your military career, and maybe we'll talk about that too, because shout out, you were living in the Pacific Northwest for a little bit with the Air Force, but also, you know, with Matt saying that he's going to do 30 years, I'm like, well, either way, you guys are correct, because what you say like is going to be what you believe, and you're going to do it. For people that are like, man, I don't know if I can do 30 years, then you're probably right. Like, you probably can't or shouldn't, because you don't want to. It sounds like you don't want to, which is totally fine. I think what you said, Matt, is being strategic about your career. I do like thinking about that and using that prompt. And I would say, if you absolutely like want to push a black and white, like you want to be a beat cop, maybe you're an FTO, maybe you're not, maybe you're like, that's not my thing, I just want to do the thing, then that's fantastic. However, contingency plan, right? You talked about being shot on duty, and we'll get into that probably, but we might not have a choice, right? We only get like a sliver of a vote to what happens in life, but it would be fantastic if you had developed your career and your skills so that if you were in a light duty, or you have a civilian capacity in the job, or maybe you can walk, you can qual, you can do all the things, you can get medically cleared, but you just don't want to be, you know, pushing the black and white. Like, you have the option.
No, definitely. And it's, you know, it's always, your mileage may vary, right? Everyone's different. Like I said, I've known plenty of cops who are 50, almost 60 years old, and are still on the streets every single day. And God bless them, because that's something that I know I'm not going to be doing at that age. But, you know, it just goes into taking some self-inventory, I think. And I think in our, like I mentioned before we started recording, you know, we're not super senior, but we're also not like the rookie beat cop. We've been on, you know, a little over 7 years now. And it's, you just kind of learn stuff in that time frame. And it just kind of goes to show, like, sometimes you may have one direction you want to go, and then life comes at you real quick and smacks you in the mouth and says, yeah, right, buddy, you thought, let's go this direction instead.
Yeah, but you also brought up something, Eric, that, you know, I do think is important, and I agree with. You know, I mean, when I say that, because I've told Matt, like, if I'm 50 years old and I'm still pushing a patrol car, like, I'm okay with it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But there are, and you're completely right, you have some contingency plan. Like, you know, forbid something happens to you where you can't, you know, push that patrol car anymore. What certifications do you have? Like, what classes have you been taking? What training do you have so you can go on and maybe, you know, fill in something until you know, recover, or if it's permanent. And, you know, I'm all for that. And, you know, I've thought about that, and that's why I've taken some classes. I've gotten certifications and, you know, qualified in certain things. So, you know, I have something to fall back to if I, you know, if the dream of, I don't know if it's a dream, but if I end up being, you know, pushing that black and white, and, you know, my day shift spot being an FTO and maybe a cushier part of town and just finishing off that way, I don't think there's anything wrong with it, because you're teaching the next generation, especially if it's something you're passionate about. If you like being that patrol cop, like, some of the most well-respected people in the department, at least for me, that I respect the most, are in those positions. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And, you know, I think my issue is hearing a lot of these new cops come up and they are just dying to get out of patrol.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 1 year, 2 year on, they're like talking about where they're going next. I'm like, dude, enjoy this time. Like, being a street cop is so much fun. There's so much to learn. There's so much to do, and just learn to be that professional street cop first before you move on. And then it also just, at least in our area, it builds this culture of patrol bad. get out of patrol. It's a bad place to be. I'm like, no, it's not. It is a very good place to be if you treat it that way.
Yeah, we talked about that on your show too, and I like that because the job is patrol. Like, patrol is the job. If you want to be a cop, think about patrol. Like, don't think about all this other stuff until you get in patrol and you're like, man, this is what lights me up about the job. I would love to do this for 40, 50 hours a week. I would love to do just this sliver of police work, right? Just drugs, just interdiction, right? Like, just plain clothes stuff. Like, but it is an entirely different job, right? It's an entirely different role. There's a lot of patrol ancillary or like kind of built in, like FTO, like K9, cool, but you're still doing patrol work. Like, so many amazing. You'd probably agree. I think most people would, but like some of your best bosses ever are probably that patrol sergeant that was in the field a ton, right? And like shaking it up and getting into pursuits, him or herself, like, because they're doing the thing and also they're officially guiding and mentoring and calling some shots, right? But it is that sweet spot for, I feel, anyone that promotes sergeant or above. Whenever you hear them at a retirement thing or an interview, like, hey, what was your favorite job? It's almost always like, as an officer, it's almost always SWAT, K9, or something like motors, right? That's not my thing, but sometimes that pops up. And then it's patrol sergeant.
Yeah, no, and it's funny you mentioned the motor thing because I thought it was just our department, but I guess like that motor, like that traffic cop brotherhood thing, that's like stronger than some like familial relationships I've noticed because those guys like it's like a frat within the police department, man. Those motor dudes, that is their bread and butter, and my God, they love every single second of it. But
and more power to them because
I couldn't do that,
that's not my.
There's no
wheelhouse.
way. Those guys love it, and I'm glad they love it because I couldn't cut it, right. What do they always say here? They're like, if motor school was easy, they'd call it SWAT school, and I'm like, oh, shut up.
Yeah, I know a lot of SWAT people that throw back, or people that have done both that would probably be able to be the most objective commentators on that. But yeah, I mean, I've heard of people that didn't pass motors, especially with a heavy bike like Harleys or whatever they're pushing. But I can see the allure. Like, I never got into motorcycles, which is probably good because when I was really close, like looking at how much they cost and looking at times to sign up for a class to get an endorsement, like I was in the phase of life as a young patrol cop where I was driving my personal and my patrol vehicle far too fast. And I don't think that would have been different for a motorcycle. And now in my like seasoned years, I just, in working as a cop, like I don't trust everyone else. It's like, cool, you can be a great responsible driver, but like things happen and people like drive with their head up there, you know what, right? So I might be too cautious dad and like old man, but that's where I'm at now with my stage in life.
No, definitely. I mean, it's funny. I still remember like I had just transferred to a new area command, and I was talking to some guy on like Facebook who was selling an Indian Scout motorcycle, and I was like, 10 grand, that's not bad. It looks good, low miles and all this. I'm like, I think I'm gonna do it. I'm like talking to my wife, I think I'm gonna do it. And she's all supportive for it. She's got a motorcycle endorsement of her license. She loves it. And that day I went into work and it was like 10 o'clock at night and we had a fatal motorcycle accident. Some guy was driving, he wasn't speeding. We had a traffic camera that saw the whole thing. And some guy just pulled out of a parking lot with a truck and he slammed into it and he ended up dying. And I was like, huh, weird. And I look at the bike and it's an Indian Scout. And I was like, huh, weird, whatever. Next day I come to work and I'm still like, I'm going to buy the bike. As soon as we hit out of the gate, man, fatal motorcycle accident. Some dude was zooming up the street going probably 100 miles an hour. Ran a red, a bus was turning in the lane in front of him. He slammed into the bus, flew through the window. And when I got there, he's laying on his stomach, but his face is facing up. So he did like the owl thing and he was dead on contact. And I was like, that. And I looked down, Indian Scout motorcycle. And I was like, okay, someone's telling me I cannot buy a motorcycle. And I messaged the guy, I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry. I love the bike. I want it, but I can't do it, man.
I love my life more.
Yeah, I was like,
that's the third person this month.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
That's several signs.
I shouldn't get it, and I didn't.
Yeah, motorcycles, gnarly. But yeah, I think that so much of that, I'm really trying not to deviate to this story of like, I don't want to be a meme monster in this one-upness, but like I think I've mentioned this in one episode earlier on, like an older episode, but yeah, like to go looking for a motorcyclist, like listener discretion if you've already if this is making you uncomfortable, probably hit the pause and don't listen to, or fast forward like about a minute. But like a motorcycle wreck where the dude's head was gone, like he had been going so fast, it detached. And I was a patrol sergeant working nights, and like I remember just spending like 10-15 minutes walking up and down the shoulders of this road, like with my officers trying to find the dude's head, and I became the one who found it. It was just like in the bushes, right? It had completely detached. If it makes the listeners feel better, and I'm not trying to make a judgment, but the guy was also he had felony warrants. He was a convicted felon. He was armed. He was carrying at the time. His mag like exploded in the road. We found all these bullets like everywhere. And he was going absolutely recklessly. So this is not like a cautionary tale to the 20-something-year-old that's like, man, I was really thinking about getting a motorcycle. But he was flying, and unfortunately for him, a DUI driver turned in front of him who was probably driving like she may have been driving absolutely normal and fine, but he was going like, over 100, maybe 130 or so. And that's physics. So
gravity don't care how good you are, it just cares about doing its thing. So
so I want to talk about why police. I think that I agree, you guys are in that sweet spot of like just veteran enough, like you haven't forgotten what it was like to not be a cop, but you're close enough to like remember all the early kind of fumblings and stuff, but also see kind of the young crowd coming in and feeling very different and seeing their priorities and how they're adjusting to life as a patrol cop and being like, man, like, no, like patrol's the stuff, like don't try to leave so quick. And so there is a generational difference that you guys are alluding to, but I do want to get into a little bit of like your guys' origin story into public service, and then we'll get further into like the learnings in the job and with Tone Alert.
Yeah, it's kind of it was easy for me. My dad, he was California Highway Patrol for 30 years. And somebody I've always looked up to, so it was kind of like a natural just transition into law enforcement, because I knew it was something, I looking up to him, it's like, oh, I want to do that. And I went into the Air Force right after. So I graduated. I served a mission for my church, and then I came out, and I wanted to do the military. I went into the Air Force because my grandpa, he was a pilot in the Air Force. I wasn't smart enough to be a pilot, so I'm very okay with that. And became a mechanic on a C-17 and was stationed up in it's called JBLM, Joint Base Lewis McChord, up in Washington State, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. Did 6 years in there. I had some great life lessons. Met some great people. Did some cool things, and then got out because I knew I didn't want to make that a career. And then after towards the end of my enlistment, I was thinking, well, I needed to figure out what I'm going to do. And the thought of just being in law enforcement was always there. And so sure enough, I applied, and my department called me, and smooth transition, and it's kind of where I went, and I'm still loving it. I love being a cop. I think it's the greatest job in the world. It's so much fun. I'm glad I did it a little bit later. I was 27 when I became a cop. There's no way I could do it as a 21-year-old. I know there are people that can, and respect to you.
Yeah.
I was not mature enough. I did not have enough experience in life, and I knew that. And I'm glad I went into it when I did, and it's worked out to me perfect.
Yeah, my story is a little bit different than Austin, right? I had absolutely zero aspirations of being a patrol cop. I was graduating high school. I was going to be a lawyer. I was going to be this hotshot defense attorney, and I was going to show everybody. I was
hard pivot.
Complete other side.
Yeah, he looks like one too.
Oh, fuck you. Oh, sorry if I
doesn't.
I swear a lot. If you got to bleep it, I apologize.
If you're just listening and he doesn't look like a defense attorney, because everyone has an image of what a defense attorney looks like right now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I was going to be a defense attorney, man. I did pre-law classes. I was the vice president of our trial team. I was set, man. Took the LSAT, scored decent on it, right? Enough to get into a pretty good law school here on the West Coast. And man, I was all set for it. And then, I was looking at the tuition costs, and I was like, ooh, shit.
Never mind.
Yeah, that's $350,000 I don't have. And I'm like, I could go into a shit ton of debt. And it just kind of like put me at this like crossroads in my life. And I was like, whoa, man. I don't think this is going to happen. And at the time I was waiting tables and, making good money, where we work, we can make some decent money waiting tables. And I hope this doesn't target exactly where we work, but there was a pretty big active assailant type incident where I was working. And I remember being there at work and everyone's freaking out. Everyone's losing it. There's people running, people screaming. There's, people cowering in the back office. We're trying to, shut the doors, make sure everything's good. And I remember I was like, I wanted to go out and like, do whatever I could. Right.
Mm.
And my manager like grabs me and is like, where are you going? And I'm like, there's people out there that need help. And they're like, dude, get your ass back here. And he like pulls me back into the back room. And I'm sitting there on the ground surrounding like, customers and coworkers and everybody. And, we got doors barricaded and everything. And I'm sitting there thinking like, I am the biggest coward on the face of the earth. I am sitting back here, behind a locked door, with like, a bunch of people with kitchen knives in their hands. Like, I am such a freaking coward. Like, I should be out there helping people because there's people dying, right? Like, that was my mentality. And all I saw was cops running up, people with rifles, people with plate carriers. And I'm thinking, that's what I should be doing, man. Like, these guys are going out there and they know that they might not make it home that night, but they're doing something to help people. And I made the decision right there. I said, that's what I'm going to do. And the very next day I woke up, went on the website, applied. It took me about a year to get in. And after passing all the tests and everything, and I've been loving it ever since. I always say I do want to go back and get my law degree eventually one day. Maybe not defense attorney, but I think this is the greatest job in the world. I would not want to be doing anything else. Did I enjoy waiting tables? Yeah, it was a fun job. I had good people I work with. I made arguably more money than I make right now, but this is the front row ticket to the best show on earth. And I know people say that, but it's 100% true. I love every single minute of it.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that like personal insight of like gripping you and like driving and igniting this like purpose. Like, I need to be doing that. And like, we joke about defense attorneys and like, but ultimately like think about the word defense, and like we live in arguably the freest nation in the world with arguably, although it gets very frustrating in policing and criminal justice, but like if there's a place to get falsely arrested, or something, like if, maybe there's probable cause, but you didn't do it. Like I don't know of a place I'd rather be with a justice system where I get a fair shot, and can have someone defend me or someone provide me a defense. Like, shoot, like love traveling. I don't know, like if you got arrested in another country and you didn't have the assets, like how many countries would provide you like someone to defend you and make a case for you? So
yeah, the way I looked at it when I was in school was, and I had an amazing professor who put it in great perspective because, he was a very, I don't want to say flamboyant guy, like not like that kind of flamboyant, but like he was from the Bronx and he wore tailored suits and he talked with an accent. He was a solid, he was a flashy dude. Yeah. He was awesome. He's my favorite professor I ever had. But one thing he taught us was like, as a defense attorney, I'm not representing the defendant, I'm representing the system. Because at the end of the day, any one of us can be sitting in the defense chair.
Yeah.
Any one of us can be accused of a crime, can be, framed for a crime, can actually have committed a crime. But if the system is not there intact to make sure that everything is fair and just, then, that's not a free society, right? Yeah. That's like what 1950s, 1940s communist Russia, like. And he's like, that's something I don't want to do. So he's like, I could defend Osama bin Laden one day and I could defend a homeless guy that stole a candy bar the next day. He's like, I'm defending the system and I'm making sure the system is still fair because that's what matters to me.
Yeah, it's such a take and a spin on like, justice. We think about justice and we all work and live in a time where you recognize like, yeah, cops are not immune either, right? From being charged like fairly, unfairly. And then having a system in place. And so, but I like the fact that you like gravitated towards this career of a defense attorney, and then you shift from this like life-changing event that you're right there and you're like, I want to defend people, right? I want to defend justice. And that I think that's so powerful to recognize.
Yeah, it took a little bit of time to make that transition, but I think that especially too, like with that schooling and that, experience I've had there, I think I have kind of a leg up on, some people when it comes to trial stuff, but that's just my personal experience there.
Yeah. And, I'm fresh talking to a new guy I'm helping kind of mentor in the hiring process. And it's what sometimes takes a few conversations, especially a younger person, where they're like, they have this like burning fire but it takes a little bit to get that out of them, right? They're like, well, I know I'm not supposed to just say like I want to help people, but then the ride along really changed it. This is what I said like I went on a ride along and like just that's the thing. And I was like, but what is the thing? Like draw deeper, right? Like what did you see or experience where you're like it was just in your bones where you're like I want to do that thing. And like you have this very iconic story, but I venture to guess that everyone does have something. Like this is not a normal thing to want to sign up for, especially knowing like the politics and the societal implications. And after 2020, a lot of people's like actual close friends and family like distance themselves, and hopefully a lot of that has been repaired 5 years later, but I know certainly a lot of it hasn't. But all to say, like, I mean, for the younger or newer listeners coming in that are finding the show for hiring purposes, like I did have a suspicion that there'd be a lot of nuggets in here for you. I want to ask you both, like, since we just talked about coming into the profession and, Austin, with your military time, shout out, you shared that you tested with Pierce County, local agency. I have a lot of friends there and colleagues there, but do you remember what really helped you in the process, like the things that it took some reps to learn, or in hindsight, even today, where you would kind of give that little offering to people that are kind of deciding where to work and how to get themselves ready for the process?
Yeah, I mean, I think my answer always seems different of like why I want to be a cop. And maybe it's not different. I think it's just the way I word it is different. Like I like taking bad guys to jail. I do. I like it. I like getting in those foot pursuits, all the fun stuff everybody likes to do. But I enjoy when there's somebody who is preying on weak and vulnerable people. Because that's what these bad guys do. Yep. 99% of the time. They go for a soft target and they take advantage of it. And I can't stand that. And it's something very rewarding about whether you're physically chasing them down or, detectively chasing them down. It's not even a word.
Technical
that's
word,
even a word. Yeah, detectively chasing them down and then eventually just apprehending them. Yeah. And that goes, most people are like, well, I want to help people. Well, that's helping people. That is helping the society. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where my mentality has been with it. And it's okay, I think, to think that, to be like, well, I want to go chase bad guys. And something I've had to learn and kind of developed is, well, there's more to it than that. Like you have to make sure that you are following the law. You have to make sure you're following your policies. You have to be a morally and ethically good person, and you got to have some common sense. And if you follow those things, and if you are, living your career or working your career with those in mind, or even just, looking for a department with those things in mind, everything's going to be okay. Will you have some bumps in the road? Absolutely. This job, you're not going to get out of it scot-free. Mm-hmm. There are some things that's just going to happen. But as long as you're doing everything the right way and you have the right mindset about it, of why you want to be a cop, then at the end of the day, it will be okay. So some of these major incidents you see where it's just like these officers end up getting indicted in prison for a long time. Like if you take one of those things, like I said, follow the law, policy, morally and ethically good person, have common sense. If you look at that incident and you say, well, where did they come short on that? You can find where they fell short on it. And I'm not saying I made this great, perfect system where you just follow it and everything be perfect. But for the most part, at least that's how I feel.
Yeah. What pops up in you, Matt?
I mean, I look at it as it takes a special kind of person to do this job. It's if somebody came to you just out of the blue and was like, hey, dude, I got some, we'll pay you for 30 years and you're going to be hated. People are going to spit on you. You're going to be shot. You're going to be stabbed. You're going to get pepper sprayed. You're going to get in countless fights. People are going to stalk you online. People are going to say horrible things about your family. And at the end of it, if you're not addicted to alcohol or drugs or, divorced or, don't have a good relationship with your kids, you'll get a retirement. And don't you want to do that? Doesn't that sound fun? And it's like, holy shit, why the hell do we do this? But like I said, it comes down to that special person to look past all of that, right? And I'm not saying I'm a special person by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, we're all special.
I'm just the guy who got seized in high school who tried to be a little bit too funny. But, it takes a special mindset to do this kind of job, because if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it, right? If it was, like the TV shows make it out to be, yeah, it looks awesome, you know, car chases and shootings, and you know, at the end of the day, everything's okay, but that's not the reality of the job. And I think that if you can find that kind of mental reserve or that strength to just push past all of that and just try to remember who you are as a person, you'll get through it the best way you can. And sometimes that's relying on other people, right? I can't tell you how many times this guy has helped me get through some difficult situations. I can't tell you how many times other people on my squad or friends I've made along the way have helped me. And it's just something that, like I said, it's the best show on earth. Sometimes the show sucks, but if you get through the bad times, you'll see the good times at the end.
Yeah, commercials and all that, or a season that just kind of fell off. They were just cranking out poor content. But in
Definitely.
some, the show is still really good. You highly recommend someone else. And I think you both outlined so many things that are really important, I think, for not just the entry coming in, like, you know, find yourself, like recognize what you're passionate about, and then package that up and put that out there. But then for everyone listening at every stage of the game, right? If you have 2 years left, I know for a fact, if you listen to those words, it should light something up and helping you recognize what you want to do to help make your 2 years like the best last 2 years, right? With a smile on your face, where you're walking out the door, you're not MFing things in the system. Like, it's like, no, you choose to be here. Like, no one's making you be here another 2 years. You could take your penalty in retirement, you know, just get a little bit less and be happy and not resentful. And so that goes to like kind of the victimhood that's so sneaky, I think, at times. But I like how you guys put it. I think it was you, Austin, that kind of said something. You said reminded me of a defensive tactics instructor years ago telling us about knife defense, right? And he's like, hey, we're going to learn a couple things, you know, kind of mitigating things. But one thing to get in your mind, and he quoted his other instructor saying, like, if someone pulls out a knife and in close combat, like, just recognize already you will get cut, right? Like, just understand that, and like the whole thing gets a lot easier. Like, not to say like defending a knife is going to be easy, it's going to suck, but it's that mindset thing. And I think that that's one of the things to recognize from what you guys both shared is like, yeah, the likelihood of a lot of bad things happening in this career is high. A likelihood of, you know, getting blasted by a boss and getting sued for doing nothing really wrong, or getting, you know, named and then the suit drops, but that's still stressful. Having to talk to your union about this or that, or something that might be coming down the pipe. Injuries, right? That might be from a suspect. It might not be getting stabbed or shot. It might be just like, you know, just wrestling and then having pulled something really weird, having this really bad pop in your knee from a foot pursuit where you're on desk duty or you're at home. These things are all not fun, but yeah, the purpose is that you recognize your purpose is big enough to just drown that out into essentially like, yeah, that's just cost of doing business. At a recent Q&A episode where I kind of answered like, how dangerous is the job, and some of the things I brought up are like, yeah, there's a lot of cops in America that don't have a super dangerous career looking back, but it doesn't mean that anything couldn't have happened anytime in there, right? I don't care if you're rural, small town, airport, whatever. We all know tragic things happen anywhere. And it is to say that totally ranges. Like, if you sign up for a major metropolitan place, yeah, you are stacking the likelihood up, but then hopefully that's the right fit, because you want those stories and you want the stacking upness, because that's what's going to light you up and fuel your fire.
Yeah, that's kind of what, you know, almost like the reason we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I've talked about it a lot. Like, no matter where you worked, whether you're a cop, you're a firefighter, EMS, it doesn't matter where in the country you work. You work the nicest part of the nicest part of the country.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have some kind of story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to happen. Is it going to be as frequent as, you know, some of the, like you said, major metropolitan areas, you know, the poorer part of those towns? No, probably not. But we all can relate to this job. Like, we all understand the stresses of it. We've been to those calls, and, you know, trying to, I guess, I don't know if you want to delve into it, like why we started the podcast.
Yeah,
like,
please.
you know, talking about kind of bringing, I guess, the first responder community together. I've noticed that, at least starting out, that cops we're our worst enemies.
Oh yeah.
And, but we can all relate to these things, these stresses, these PTSDs, these calls. And, realizing that, hey, we're all in this together. We should all be a team is super important. And, we're probably never going to, maybe we'll never completely bring us all together. But damn it, if I'm going to try.
Exactly.
Damn, man, like we've gone through some stuff, we've experienced some things. And, when I guess the summer, like the way I think about it, the summer of love, 2020, they didn't care who you were, what department you worked for. They didn't care if you were a cop or a firefighter. You had a badge, you were the enemy. We more than ever, we needed to be together, and it should always be like that. But yeah, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I think kind of the point that Austin and I try to make with this is like, the first responder community is very tight in some regards, but it's usually after something tragic, right? We shouldn't be all together and, supporting each other when we're standing at a funeral.
Right.
And sometimes, unfortunately, that's what happens, right? The firefighter versus police mentality, the little brotherly rivalry, like that's fun, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, too, like we've all got one mission, right? Whether you're putting out a house fire or you're chasing a bad guy down the street because he beat up his baby mama, like we're all trying to make our communities a little bit better than where we came into it, right? And, like Austin said, the main takeaway from Tone Alert is just bringing everyone together, giving everybody the opportunity to tell their story. Because while we love the SWAT stories and the Navy SEAL stories and I was rappelling out of a helicopter and defused a bomb on top of the, Empire State Building, like those are awesome. Love those. But you've got, the 20-year traffic cop who, saved 3 infants from a crazy car wreck on, I-205 or whatever. And like he deserves to have that story told. And the problem that we've run into, though, is that most first responders are very, very humble and they don't like the spotlight put on themselves. Even when they do something that is 100% deserving of that spotlight, oftentimes they're like, no, I'm trying not to be boastful. And it's like, it's not being boastful, man. Like, tell your story. Like, I think every single person, especially in the first responder field, deserves to have a little bit of that recognition. Now, am I saying they need to go like, full YouTuber Tim Kennedy status and, exaggerate things and boast on everything? No, but I think that everyone should have the right to be able to tell their story. And, it's okay to feel good about that, right? Like I've said many times before, I'm not any spectacular person, right? Yes, I've been shot on duty. It sucked. I'm not saying I'm a better person for that. I'm not saying I'm this hero. God knows I'm not. I made plenty of mistakes that day that if I would have done differently, probably would have resulted in me being fine. But at the end of the day, I still want to take this platform and just for myself, show people like, hey, you can go through a hard time. You can have the worst year of your life, but you can come out on the other side. It doesn't have to end where you let it. You just need to be strong enough to pick yourself up.
Yeah. I love that positivity and that constructive nature. Is kind of like, man, all we have is each other. And I think that like the archetypical thing that I can think of is working graveyard, like on a squad, patrol is like, most of the world's asleep, right? Like during the day, you get all these assets, right? You could even have detectives come out, like you can have all these specialty units like roll out with their, the big incident. Like sometimes that happens, like you have the major incident and everyone is coming out, like the admin sergeant threw his vest on. You're like, heck yeah, this is legit. But at night, you're like, all you have is who's in the briefing room. It's like you versus the world in a not like a us them way, but kind of, right? Like those like creating problems, like if it's a bar full of people and they all want a piece of you, like that's who you got. And then you got to call, well, you're not truly all alone, right? You can call like the next agency over and they'll scream in it. You can call county and like a trooper will show up if you put out the right kind of like request for help. Like, and that's the stuff. Like we've had major incidents at night, like as the watch commander, where I come in the middle of the night and other people come in the middle of the night, but like it was all the graveyard, like boots on the ground that came in and swarmed to address this officer down, like this suspect, like pulled on an officer on a foot pursuit and shot him up. And luckily our officer survived, our local trooper. Wow. So excited to feature that at some point. But props to that legit hero. But it was everybody and their mom coming in to absolutely saturate the area. It was a fantastic street sergeant. It was a fantastic group of cops, multiple canine teams. Like they got the guy that night. Detectives came in. They like the investigation's legit, and I'll keep it more vague because it's not all the way through. But like anyone in my region knows what I'm talking about. But I think anyone outside of the region will be like, yeah, I know about stuff like that, and that is legit. And so when you're talking about, man, life is hard enough, but we got to be, you know, talking stuff about some case not being good or who has the job worse. Like, come on, like we all sign up for this thing
Yeah.
and we have each other. And yes, we should not be waiting for a funeral to see our buddies from academy. Like, go get coffee, go roadside, right? Go car to car and all that stuff, and shoot a text. Like, life's too short.
Oh, without a doubt, man. That's one thing that we say on this show a lot is, unfortunately, nobody hates cops more than other cops.
It's so true.
And the kind of funny part is too, like when we interview firefighters or, when we interview EMTs or something like that, we kind of see a little bit of that disconnect. And it makes me like, I don't want to say sad, but like, I'm like, oh, why can't we have that? Like, I mean, even firefighters and EMTs supporting us, right? Like, I mean, I think we had a stretch for like, a solid month or two where every single one of our episodes was a firefighter. And like, we're getting all the firefighters in the comments, saying all these amazing things. And it's like, man, I wish we could have that. Like, it must be nice.
And that's kind of, we were kind of talking off air about it. That camaraderie within the fire department, I didn't realize how strong that was.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like talking to some of these firefighters and like listening to like some of these bigger firefighter pages, the camaraderie is just, the brotherhood is outstanding. I love that. I think that's so great. And I know part of it, I think we figured it out. It's like, they're always working as a team. They eat together, they sleep together.
They don't ever do anything alone.
Yeah. And like a lot of times a patrol officer, you can do a lot of this alone. There's a lot you can do unless, you have your special units and stuff. And, luckily Matt and I have been, fortunate enough to get on a specialized unit where we are working as a team finally. And I'm starting to feel that. I'm like, oh, so that's got to be where it's at. But, just supporting each other. Firefighters are huge with that. I remember we were, I'm not going to say any names, but we were at work and, we were bringing that up and another officer looked at us and he was like, yeah, that's because they're firefighters. They got nothing going on. They just sleep all day. Of course they can watch your podcast. I'm like, yeah, but they're supporting us and them. I said, do you know about our podcast? He goes, yeah. I'm like, do you follow us? He goes, no. I'm like, well, then there you go. Yeah. Like they are, and they help each other. But
yeah, a couple things. I think you're right because I've had the same kind of wonderings and talked to different, different first responders. Like, why is peer support generally more robust and effective, and why is like wellness and this team culture more effective in fire service versus police? And their default is together, right? And then if they go off alone, it's because like they're at the firehouse, they're going to go work out by themselves. But they work out together a lot, right? And they're going to go like take care of their personal hygiene alone, or they go to a fire and then someone gets delegated to do this one task and go over to that corner. Maybe they're alone, but their default's together, and our default is alone. Like you're in your car until you get sent somewhere with somebody, and so until you get there or until you pull a stop, you pull it alone. You don't like wait for a car to catch up and like, okay, what, ready, 3, 2, 1, and our lights go on, right? Like unless you're like a 2-person, and that's not super common outside of like big areas, but even then, right? Not the same dynamic. Man, one thing you said, and I know a lot of people have socialized this and kind of like made this a tag, but like as far as cops being our own worst enemies, and I hadn't had this thought or this like kind of phrase in my mind, but I want to share it in that it's because some people might say like, well, what about like suspects that are trying to hurt you? And I will say like what popped in my mind, unfortunately in a cynical way, but I mean to turn it into like a challenge for ourselves and our culture, is that like people that hate cops, like suspects, or just people that just hate cops, like at least you know where they stand and they'll say it to your face. They'll like literally like scream it or flip you off as you drive by. But some of the pervasive like cops, like the gossip culture, like how much like crap talking that happens behind your back, like we talk about integrity, but that's literally the opposite about like, do you have a problem with someone to say it to their face, or just don't say it because it's not constructive, right? Like same team. And the other flip I'll add on is I know plenty of times I've seen it on camera recently, and I remember in my own career literally fighting with someone, getting them in custody, and having them apologize, right? Like a suspect apologizing for like, hey, I was scared, or yeah, you're right, my bad. Like you did what you had to do, or yeah, I understand the way you sent the dog on me. I'm sorry. Like they apologized to me for fighting me. Like I can think of a ton of cops, and this is not to like I'm not like holding on to it. I'm just in the moment. I'm realizing that I know a lot of times that someone has talked crap behind my back because someone told me later, even when I was injured on duty and not at work, that's never come to apologize to me for any of it. Right. So like this is, again, not like to get like all low and negative, but it's like we all, myself included, like I'll be at the front of that line to say like we all need to do better about not gossiping, not like just saying the disparaging things for no benefit, right? Not about like, hey man,
Yeah.
like, how about this? Like, how about I help you along? Or just talking crap. And we all do it.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to get into that, gossiping and like, did you hear this, hear that?
It's high school all over again, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if it's like, maybe it's just our department or even like our specific area we work. You can see a lot about the new generation of cops coming up. And, I have my opinions. Sure, they're there. But something I have noticed is they seem to have that camaraderie mindset. I think this newer generation coming up. I think there was, when policing started, and I could be completely wrong, but it's just something I've just casually observed, I guess. When policing first started, like my dad, he always talked about the camaraderie, the teamwork, the being on a team. It was huge back in the day. And then there was like this lull. I don't know what happened or where it was. And like maybe we were on the tail end of it. And then the new officers coming in, but it could be the graveyard guys being graveyard guys. But they seem to have that. It looks like it's coming back, of camaraderie, the teamwork. And that's something I've noticed with cops nowadays that are hiring on, whether they're young or they're, a little bit older. And, it's kind of given me a little bit of hope for the future, and I hope that continues. And if we can do that with Tone Alert or even with Blue Grit Wellness, I mean, it's social media too. They see that, hey, we're all in this together. It's okay to like each other. It's okay to work with each other. And so I don't know. I could be completely off base with that, but it's something I've noticed.
No, I think you got a point there, especially when you look at it like, we've talked about it on our show before. When Austin and I, we were in the same academy, we didn't like each other, right? We were not friends by any stretch of the imagination.
I loved hearing about that in your first episode.
He thought I was, rightly so, a bit of a pompous asshole, which to my effect, maybe I was.
He seemed like a defense attorney or something.
Yeah, it was like this weird dynamic there, but it's, and then eventually like I worked in a separate area from him for almost 5 years. And then I transferred over and I was on his squad. And I could kind of tell like the first day or two, it was just kind of like, he's like, what's this guy about? And then like, fast forward a week or two, now we're doing a podcast together. I've met his family. I've gone on vacation with him. Like we hang out off duty, obviously right now. Right. And it just kind of goes to show like that time dynamic, right? Like that's something that over time can obviously change. Right. I mean, I promise you, if you would have gone back in the academy and told Austin, hey, remember that dude you don't like, believe it or not, in like 5 to 6 years, you guys are going to be like really good friends and you guys are going to do a podcast together and you guys are going to make stupid little jokes and argue about, the dumbest shit. But like
you're smoking meth.
Yeah. he probably would have told you were out of your goddamn mind. But it just kind of goes to show that like that togetherness can happen. It's just whether or not you're willing to make it happen.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to take a pivot because I feel like it'd be depriving the audience if you didn't say a little bit about how you got shot on duty, because you even said like some things you learned, and I know that that's something that's going to be extremely intriguing. Please feel free to plug like if you know of an episode on Tone Alert that you talk about that in detail, if there is one. But otherwise, like, can you give us a little rundown? Because I just know that people are going to be really frustrated if I didn't circle back to that.
Yeah, they're like, wait,
go back. Yeah, no, definitely. I've told people too, I have no problem talking about it. I made mistakes. I, did some things good, some things bad, but it's all a learning thing, right? We were doing an episode with Tyler from Anti-Hero Podcast, who shout out to Anti-Hero Podcast, kind of helped, us kind of figure out this podcast thing. Yeah. So we were doing an episode with him and I just casually brought it up. I don't remember if it was like before or after. But he wanted to hear about the story and I had kind of thought, I was like, we've never actually really talked about it on the show before. So I kind of started getting into the story, but basically what happened was, it was, never forget it, February 2nd, 2024, worst day of my life. We get a call that there's a suicidal guy who's running around on the highway, trying to get hit by cars. And the area that we work, there's a major highway that goes right down the middle of our area. So they dispatch me and a buddy. I start going north. He starts going south. We're looking for the guy. I don't see him. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to turn around, go handle another call. No big deal. Then my partner radios in, is like, hey, I found the guy. And, I'm going to go out on him. And so I make a U-turn, try to get to him. And then I hear, oh, he's running. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So I start trying to get there, and then all of a sudden, you know, he broadcasts over there. He's like, he's carjacking people. He's trying to carjack people.
Man.
I'm like, whoa, this took a turn. And I'm like, oh shit. So I'm trying to get to him as best I can. It's rush hour traffic. There's construction, because when is there not ever construction? And I finally kind of like find out where they are. And I see this dude running across the street, and I see my buddy behind him. He'd been chasing him for probably 3, 4, 5 minutes at this point. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll take over the chase. We'll get him in custody. Bing, bang, boom. We'll be good. So I pull up, jump out of the car. He kind of goes around a semi truck. I go the other way, and I draw out on him. I'm like, hey, get on the ground. I see he's actively trying to pull on a driver door to get into a car. And I'm like, oh shit. So I start making my way up. He doubles back. I throw my gun in my holster. Now, this is where the big problem lies, right? I have a 3 retention holster, which for those who don't know, you know, all holsters have different levels of retention. Sometimes there's a button you got to push to get the gun out. Sometimes there's a hood you have to defeat. Sometimes there's a combination of all of them. So I had the hood, the button, and of course the retention of the holster. So the guy doubles back. I hop over the barrier. We're chasing him. I'm gaining ground on him. I'm like, oh, perfect. Like, I'll get him in custody. I'll tackle him. We'll throw him in handcuffs. Probably going to be a crazy guy, so he's going to have to, you know, go to the hospital or whatever. So I get up to him and I tackle him. Well, it's middle of February. He's wearing a sweatshirt. And as we start falling, he starts slipping out of the sweatshirt. So I have a good hold on the sweatshirt, but not on him. Next thing I know, we're on the ground, and I try getting on the radio to be like, hey, you know, I got him on the ground or whatever. And another mistake I made, the radio is not going to save your life. Next thing I feel is he's kind of reaching around me. I think he's going for like a bear hug. And then I feel my gun in my holster go bang. And I'm like, whoa, shit, what was that? Like, ears are ringing. It's one of those, like, what just happened? And I look down, and he's actively pulling my gun out of the holster. So what I found out later was when he fired that round, it broke through the bottom of my holster. And somehow, I don't know if he hit the button or if that broke the retentions or whatever, but he's able to get my gun out. I see that. I reach down, and we're wrestling over my gun. And I'm thinking, fuck, this is a bad spot to be. I'm like, this sucks. And it's funny, looking back, it felt like forever. It felt like I was fighting this dude for an hour. But you watch the video, and it was like 30 seconds. So we're fighting over that. And the next thing that happens is he grabs a hold of the trigger and goes bang, 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 and fires 3 rounds. One round hit a flashlight that I had in my pocket, which I still have a picture of that. I'll send it over to you. It's kind of wild. So that eats one of the rounds. It hits my handcuff pouch on my belt. That eats another round. And then the last round, I think, it could have been either of them, goes into my leg, bounces off my femur, explodes into like a million pieces, lodges behind my knee. And like in that moment, I was like, oh man, that's not good. I'm like, this is a bad spot. So I'm like fighting over the gun, and I'm like reaching it up in the air, and I'm like screaming for my partner. I'm like, he's got my gun. He's got my gun. And you know, that's never something I wanted to be yelling at. Right. And in that moment, I'm just like, oh man, like this is not good. I'm going to die here. And I'm like fighting for my life. I'm trying to put I'm trying to grab a hold of the slide. I'm trying to turn the gun to him so that I can pull the trigger and hopefully end the threat. And we're like fighting for it over my head, and he pulls the trigger again. I didn't know at the time, but I had my hand over the slide. So it stopped the slide from going back, and it jammed it. So I didn't know that at the time, and I only found that out later. But then my partner comes up, and we're able to get him into custody. And then I'm like, all right. So I stand up. I know I've been hit, but I didn't know how bad. So then I stand up, and I try taking a step, and I'm like, oh shit, that's not good. I just collapsed right there, right? And I'm like laying there on the highway, and I'm like, oh man, like this is it. I'm gonna die. I'm like, fuck, dude, like that sucks. And then I'm like, wait, no, like get back in the fight. What are you doing, dude? So I reach down, I keep a tourniquet around my ankle, and I threw the tourniquet on, and which sucks, by the way. Oh my god, I had no idea. Like you do the drills and stuff in training. That was worse, I feel like, than getting shot at the time, because I had so much adrenaline going through me. So I cranked the tourniquet, and I look down, and there's just blood everywhere. I'm like, all right, I haven't passed out. That's good. And so I get on the radio. I'm like, hey, I've been shot. Tourniquet applied. Like, roll medical. And one of our other buddies that we do the podcast with, Derek, who's sadly not here today. He's alive, by the way. That sounded really weird. He just is on vacation.
He took time off, which is good. Kudos.
Yeah. He's not dead. He's a great guy. He shows up, picks me up, throws me in the back of a car that was driven by a cop I had never met. He worked another area. He heard the commotion and, left his trainee at jail, and, came and picked me up and drove me to the hospital, which kudos to that guy. So these dudes load me up in the car and hightail me to the hospital. And the whole time I'm just going like, I gotta stay awake. I gotta stay awake. I gotta stay awake. And like, the good thing was I was like, all right, I'm not passing out. So like, I think I'm okay. Right. But I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't know, did I clip my femoral? Did I already lose too much blood? Like what do I do? And my buddy Derek's just in the back of the car trying to keep me calm. You know, he like cut the pant leg up and like, he's like, all right, dude, you're still bleeding. I got to tighten your tourniquet down again. So he cranks it again. And at that point, like that's when all the pain hit. I could have punched him in the jaw. That hurt so bad. I was like, it was so bad. But they got me to the hospital. They fixed me up and another 6 months of recovery and, you know, the mental stuff. But, you know, I look at it and say, like, I didn't do anything spectacular. I didn't do anything heroic. I made mistakes, and those mistakes ultimately almost killed me. But if there's a single cop out there that can learn from my mistakes, it's all the better, because the last thing I want to have happen is, you know, somebody else to get hurt because, you know, maybe if they heard, you know, just grab the tourniquet after you've been shot, you know, or, you know, stay in the fight. Don't give up. Like you're better than that. You're stronger than that. So, that's kind of my story with it. It's taken a long time to kind of get into a better mental state, but you know, it's just every day fighting forward and trying not to stay in that hole.
Yeah, man. I mean, I appreciate you sharing it, and I know a lot of people do. And I'm curious, like, are you aware of all the things that you did right though? Like, I mean, it's good to focus on mistakes and opportunities to learn. You've already shared some of those overtly, but do you recognize what you did well?
Yeah. And it's taken me a long time to do that. I went through a substantial amount of like in-person therapy with like a psychologist because originally I was just like, nope, I failed. Like I got hit. Like you can't fail worse than that. And it took me a long time to realize like, yeah, you made mistakes, but dude, you did a lot of things right. You stayed in the fight. You didn't give up. Like you made sure that, you know, other people were safe. Like the only person that got hurt that day was me. And I can live with that. That's fine. You know, he didn't hurt a civilian. He didn't hurt himself. He didn't hurt one of my partners. Like, you know, at the end of the day, we all walked, or in my case, limped out of that. But, you know, that mental, I tell everyone the mental part of that was way worse than the physical. Like, sure, I had to relearn how to walk. I had to go through physical therapy. You know, I'm still dealing with the residual physical side effects of that. Like before I was squatting like 300 pounds. I was trying to get a PR of 315. Now I can barely do 135 on a bar doing squats. And it's just like, yeah, that sucks. But, you know, that was the easy part. It was everything up here in the head. That was the hardest part about doing this whole thing. And, you know, I'm not perfect. I still have bad days, but I try not to let the bad days determine the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And there's a piece of it that I also resonate with, in that, like, this is the end. Shit, like, I guess this is it. Like, and I almost hear the shame associated with it, but I've shared that I had the same thing in my shooting, right? When the propane tank exploded and there's fire coming over and consumed me and I felt intensely hot, I'm like, well, I'm just getting incinerated. Like it was a good run. And I'm like, how dare you? Like, this is literally the one thing that every academy instructor and trainer and FTO or whatever has said, like, it's not over till it's over. And I self-ascribed this to be over. And so there was a degree of shame about that. But then I also recognized, like, this is not like, there's a follow-up to this, but like, this is not something you mentally prepare for a lot, like this fireball, or, you know, someone like disarming you and like shooting you in the leg and you're fighting in the highway kind of thing. But everyone that now has listened to it, it now is right. You think about it, don't get paralyzed by it, but just recognize, yeah, anything can happen. A fireball can happen. You know, this guy can disarm or try to, but then, you know, if you're ready for it, then you can prepare differently. And so, all to say, I appreciate that nod as well. And also, I do think there's a lot of value in you saying, like, the work's not done, right? This is just a year and a half, not even a year and a half ago. Like, kudos to you for being able to share that, like, extremely publicly, literally on multiple podcasts in your own, with that notion to share. And it could be years and years and years, and you're still working out different things physically, mentally, but just to recognize, like, the pivot and mission and the gradual steps towards, I think, is huge.
Yeah. And I mean, I chalk it up a lot to, you know, Austin and Derek. I don't think I would have gotten through it if it wasn't for these guys. You know, the amount of, you know, personal support that they had given me over the time, and the amount of like, you know, hey dude, I'm here for you. Hey, let's get you out of the house. Let's start the podcast up. You know, like we had to take a serious break when I was going through all that, because I just was not in a space to be able to handle any sort of this. But, you know, I completely chalked to where I am today up to, you know, these guys that have helped me get through it. And I'm forever grateful for that, because I worry about where I would be if I didn't have them. And I know I'm getting a little sappy, but thanks, bro. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. I remember that night. I actually wasn't at work. You know, I know you got shot and everything, but I remember having like the worst man cold of my life that night. and nobody ever recognizes the pain I went through that night.
Yeah, but thank you for your service. Yeah,
I remember I was really sick. I remember that night I called in sick, but I remember the news going out, like, you know how the rumor mill goes, like texts just start flying, and then I remember thinking, like, I'm pretty sure I had some kind of flu, but I could hardly get out of bed. I remember thinking, well, somebody needs to let me know. Is he going to die? Because if he is, I'm getting in my car, at least say goodbye. Like, I'm not just going to sit here in my bed. And then luckily one of our buddies went and off duty, go check on him. And he texted me. He's like, hey, he's going to be all right. You know, it sucks. But I'm like, okay. And I remember just passing out. So I was like, but like I want to say goodbye. Like, I was as sick as I was like, you know, I wanted to be there for him. But yeah. It was a crazy night.
Yeah, it was a bad night. But
And
you learn from it, you grow, you keep moving, and you know, I try not to let it define me, even though Austin says I never shut up about this story. But
well, it's not helpful that people keep asking, right? But I think that there's a lot of layers there. But I guess what I want to go to is, you know, you paid, you know, I guess thanks and gratitude to your buddies, you know, including Austin. You gave some of the examples of how that made the difference, right? Just that little nudge, and sometimes we gotta overtly or softly or hard, right? Like nudge our buddies. Austin, do you remember what the mindset was for you and like desire to show up, or how you wanted to show up, or what you intended to do? Because a lot of times we can tiptoe around our friends and our family. We know they're going through a hard time. We're like, man, I don't know what the right thing is. Do you remember thoughts on that?
Like showing up for Matt?
Yeah, and how you wanted to go about it, or is it texting? Is it literally showing him on his door and being like, no, we're doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I knew like if the whole world was texting him, so I knew that was gonna happen. So I did. If I remember correctly, I did send you a text.
Yeah, you did.
But I remember I'm like, it's probably just gonna sit there. It's fine. Don't respond back. That, and I don't want to I don't want to sound like too much of a wuss, but I was really sick that night. I don't know why I remember so vividly.
You're making me think of those like memes. Have you seen these memes about like a adult male stomach ache and how it's just like the worst, like debilitating?
Yeah, it was one of those. Yeah.
Dude, I literally almost couldn't get out of bed. It was crazy. Anyway, but I did, you know, I'd send him a text, and I was just grateful that he was okay. And I was like, well, you know, we were pretty good friends, you know, at that point. You know, me as a friend, maybe it's not the best approach, but I like to joke and, like, you know, maybe too much people. I don't know if, you know, I like to tease a lot. And, you know, that's kind of how I approached it, because I knew, first of all, he can handle it. But I also knew, like, yeah, there's going to be some mental stuff, you know, associated with it. I'm pretty open about my mental health. I went through some stuff, started in the military, and that had to go through. So I knew that was there, that was going to be there. And I wanted to make sure, you know, I didn't tease him too hard, but be there for him. I knew, you know, like the secret formula, I feel like for us is we're going to go out and we're going to disappear in the mountains, go somewhere as soon as he is able to.
You made that sound really gay, by the way. Like
Hey,
Brokeback Mountain.
Hey, either
You know,
way.
to each his own.
And
Yeah, 2025, man. Judge let
You know,
me see be judged.
go camping, go fishing as soon as he can. And I kind of just wanted to be there for him in any way he can, or any way I could be. Because, like I said, I didn't realize, you know, getting shot in the leg does suck. There's a lot of things you can't do.
Yeah,
you can't walk, and
sucked. I couldn't drive, couldn't do anything. But it was nice because, you know, there were a lot of people who were tiptoeing around me, walking on eggshells. Like, even friends I've had for 20 years, right? Going back to high school, like, you know, just being very careful about what they say, you know, like, you know, we would play Call of Duty because that was one of the few things I could do, is just sit on a chair and play video games. But, you know, like, you know, they'd be like, oh, he's shooting. I'm like, dude, you can say that. It's okay.
Like, we're playing this game.
Yeah, we're playing Call of Duty. Like, you can say shooting. Like, it's okay, dude. But like Austin and Derek and those guys, like, you know, they still were themselves. And it was something that I was always very happy about, because, you know, the worst thing you can do is like just everybody's like walking on eggshells around you. I'm like, I'm still me. Like, come on, guys. Like, yeah, there's issues, but like, don't change who you are for me. Like, I don't want that to change. So I'm very appreciative of that, for that, because yeah, I hated that about people, just, you know, oh, you know, trying to be like so gentle. I'm like, still me, guys. Like,
yeah, I think that's important, not to really, like, you know, don't change yourself just because your buddy's, you know, going through some stuff. I mean, there's some, you know, there's ways you can help them, but like
tactfully
minded about, like, don't be a different person. You know, I hope it's not too inappropriate, but I remember when you finally had the opportunity to text our squad chat, and say, hey, I'm fine, thank you so much. And then one of the guys on one of our squad, he's like, glad you're okay. Hey, try to see if you can still get an erection. And like, that was like just a few hours after he got shot. I'm like, all right, let's, I feel like that's what you need. That you don't need like, too much woe is me. I feel like is bad.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, be yourself. Know that, hey, we love you, man. We're going to tease you about it, but we love you.
Yeah.
So it's something that I appreciate, definitely.
Energy is contagious. And I think that when you know like people's intent, and maybe asking permission if you're not that close, you're like, hey, I kind of want to make this really inappropriate joke right now. Can I? And then you'll read really quick. Like most likely someone's gonna be, all right, give it to me. Right. Like, but then it's almost a way to make fun of the situation. And we know our default as cops is oftentimes to make humor in really, dark situations. It's like, it's coping, it's handling, it's, a lot of things, but then also we know that a tendency is to like remove ourselves. And right. So like, if you feel like you're kind of turning on, like, I don't want to get in their space, but then also know, well, that is a tendency of us. And you could say, hey, man, not trying to get in your space, but I'd love to drop by this weekend. You tell me a good time. I don't have to hang out. I could be on the porch and drop some stuff off. Like I lost my buddy Diego, and that's one of like the things I think about legacy and how you show up for people. But I've told the story about how, I almost got drugged by a car, and he was relentlessly trying to get me to pull over and like stop looking for this car. And like meet me car side, and I was annoyed. I was so super perturbed. Like he was sending me messages on CAD, MDC, and then he was texting me, and he called me. I'm like, what do you want? Like finally I pulled over. He's like, dude, you okay? And no one else had picked up. My sergeant didn't pick up. I face to face with my sergeant, and I was just like, I'm gonna find this car. But all to say, like whether it was that or when I was injured at home on medical leave, like he just came. Like I told people like, dude, I'm fine. Like I just got my arms bandaged. It's fine. Like, but he just like, hey, I'm coming by. Like we're gonna hang out. We're gonna drink a beer. He brought me this like care package, and I was just like, dude, that's legit. Like I almost didn't want it. If someone had offered, I would have said no, don't do it. It makes me uncomfortable. But that's just sometimes you need those people to go outside of what you think, right? Like you're comfortable with, and hopefully people kind of hear the context too. I mean, we're super close. You guys are super close. So sometimes you just got to lean through the discomfort. And worst case scenario, someone's like, dude, I'm really not in the mood. You're like, okay, cool. Back up,
Yeah, that's easy to pick up on too.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, it just kind of goes to show too in those situations, like, you had the, what do I call it? Like we always make the joke, not really a joke, but like you got like a 6 p.m. friend and you got like a 3 a.m. friend, right? Like a 6 p.m. friend, they're good. If you want to talk during business hours, but like when they get home, like, all that. And then you got the friend that you can call at 3 a.m. You're like, hey, dude, I need you to grab a shovel in your truck because we got to bury some evidence here. And you kind of figure out.
We've never done that.
Not really. It's a joke, guys. We're not corrupt.
It's a joke. Yes, please. Do not go look in the desert for holes. Anyway, so you kind of figure out who those people in your life are, and it's kind of reassuring, And I'm not saying like, the people who texted me and like didn't follow up, like, no, I still love you. Thank you very much for all the support that you gave me. It meant the world to me. But sometimes people were just like, hey, I'm showing up, and we got a card from a couple of people at work, or hey, dude, like, come on, we're gonna go to lunch, or hey, let's go over to Derek's or whatever and just chill for a bit. So it really goes to show that when the shit happens, man, you find out who your friends are quick, and those kind of relationships are just invaluable. They're worth more than gold to me. I wouldn't trade that for all the money in the world.
Yeah, and I think on that note, I also want to throw out this, like, is that I imagine most of us, I certainly felt this way sometimes, where like I was super frustrated or stressed about something, and I wanted to talk to a buddy, but I was just like, man, it's like kid bedtime. I'm not going to do that. But like after the fact, if I share that, of course, everyone's like, dude, F you should have texted me. Like, and I think that for people in that moment, hopefully you remember some nugget of this, but like when you're feeling that stress, like I just literally need like 5 minutes to dump on some, like my buddy. And it's helpful. Don't hold on to that, because flip the script and be like, if you learned that your buddy was like really having a hard time, maybe it was not the hardest time, but maybe it's a really, really hard time. But regardless, you'd want to be there for them. You wouldn't want them to deny it themselves preemptively. And so all to say, in all the veins of peer support that I talk about a lot, I think that's a great example. What you guys shared is a fantastic example.
Yeah, definitely. Check on your buddies. It means the world to them.
100%.
Absolutely. Well, gents, we've covered a lot of ground on like first responder culture, specific police stuff, like kind of lessons learned and lessons shared, tonal alert, the mission there. I kind of want to ask you guys, like, if there's anything else kind of like percolating that you want to share out, each of you, and then of course tell people maybe to wrap, like where people can find you.
Yeah, we we're a small little production. We always say we're kind of like the worst production in the game. We always have issues. I mean, even if you may not even notice, but when we were recording with Eric here, we had a power outage literally in the studio, which, like, of course that happens to us, right?
That was our third one.
Yeah, third one that we've had happen. So we got to figure something out.
Don't count you guys are doing a great job. Just gonna throw it out there.
Yeah, we try, but we you can find us on mainly YouTube and Spotify. We're still trying to get Apple Podcasts to work because for whatever reason it doesn't like my account and it's not letting me upload anything. So stand by for that. We are a member of the Counterculture Network, which is, like I mentioned earlier, with Tyler from Anti-Hero and a bunch of awesome first responder podcasts. Actually, in like a week and a half, we're going to Miami for a big live show, and
August 16th.
August 16th is going to be a really good time. That is, if we all stay sober enough to do it this time. But
I will.
Yeah, you will. But yeah, we're just trying to pump out good first responder content, bringing that community together, and just trying to be a positive voice, in this increasingly negative world.
Yeah. We're also on Instagram, just to add.
Yeah, by the way, awesome.
Yeah, I mean, just the simple saying, just be a good dude. I mean, that's just so important. And if we can help unite just a few of us, I know probably not gonna get everybody because that's just the way it is, but we're all in this together. We all love each other. I love all my first responder buddies, my cop buddies, even firefighter guys. They're fun to make fun of, but hey, I'd take a bullet for them too. So
for sure.
Just be a good person, and we're all in this together, man.
Yeah, I love it. And then I'm looking at the Tone Alert logo, right? And it's like we got the medical. What is that called?
Yep.
Like the EMS.
That's a great question.
Like an asterisk, but you know what I mean. So look it up if you haven't already. And then within it, there's a pistol. It looks like a red dot setup on top, right? An optic. So like.
It's supposed to be an armor.
Okay, yeah. So
close enough.
Legit, and then a fire axe, which is like that is one of the most badass things I think they have going for them. It's like the legit like medieval weapon or breaching tool, I suppose.
Yes, can't be a weapon. Yeah,
I think it is cool. It's awesome.
Yeah, we went through a few different designs with it, and this is the one we ultimately settled on. I know the fire aspect is the smallest part of it, and we've had plenty of firefighters tell us that. Sorry, but it's just kind of where we are.
Though. It's also top. Like it starts at 12 o'clock. Like don't get mad.
I think it's balanced. It's decent enough.
You can still see it.
There's also 3 cops that built a podcast incorporating all like first responders. Like that's pretty good. That you get like.
Yeah, we're trying our best, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I've been on plenty of calls where like with fire and EMS, and like when we're all get along, it's awesome.
It's the best.
Like
time.
It feels like a big family, and like I was like, hey, we're all in this together, man. It's awesome.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, gents, so much. Pleasure connecting and meeting with you guys, and looking forward to doing more in the future.
Absolutely,
definitely.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Commander.
Absolutely. Thanks for waiting till the end for that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of Blue Grit Radio. As always, support this community by subscribing, giving us a 5-star review, and following, liking, and sharing posts on Blue Grit Wellness on Instagram. You can reach me there or email me at bluegritwellness@gmail.com. Be well and stay gritty.